Mr. Prime Minister, Excellencies, Ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, how many farmers do we have in this room? Farmers. Raise your hand high and everybody else applaud and welcome them. Because other than that, we're talking to each other. And the work that is required for the outcomes we want to achieve require that we are including those clients, those farmers in this conversation. So thank you, farmers and farmer representatives, for being here today. I'd like to extend my sincere appreciation to IFPRI and to our host, the government of Ethiopia, for having us here. It is fitting, and you've heard the reasons why, that this global dialogue takes place here in Ethiopia. Because when it comes to resilience building, Ethiopia is a cradle of knowledge and expertise. You've heard about the programs. You've heard about the changes that occurred that ensured that in 2011, when the Horn of Africa suffered a drought, Ethiopians did not go hungry. And that's because of the work of this country in resilience building. But we must do more. And we at WFP and our partners have learned much about resilience building from our experiences here in Ethiopia. Today, resilience is recognized by many humanitarians and development actors as the bridge between preparedness, response, recovery, and development. I disagree. In fact, resilience building is the current, not the bridge, the current that must run through preparedness, response, recovery, and development interventions if we are to sustainably create resilient individuals, communities, and nations. When resilience building runs through from preparedness, response, recovery, and development activities, we are more likely to achieve the desired outcomes of a population more resilient to shocks and crisis. And if we are to achieve this desired outcome, we, as humanitarian and development actors, must recognize that humanitarian, even emergency response activities, as well as development programming, are complementary and mutually reinforcing actions. Sometimes, in fact, even that if we're responding to the community needs, the interventions may be similar from humanitarian as well as traditional development actors, rather than separate actions taken upon a linear continuum. If we can agree on this way of thinking, it is perhaps the most significant breakthrough in the international resilience dialogue. In other words, resilience building is increasingly acknowledged as the long and much needed paradigm shift in global humanitarian and development policy thinking. But I would argue this policy paradigm shift is most important because it offers the catalyst for paradigm shifting country and community level programming, design, implementation, and M&E activities that move communities forward. Ladies and gentlemen, we must agree that the outcomes we seek require multi-year, multilateral investments. Why, you ask? Because resilience building compels us to take a longer-term perspective. In the World Food Program, like many of the organizations here today, our resilience building programs are reaching a critical mass. Already, 40% of WFP operations contribute in some way to resilience building of individuals and communities. At WFP, resilience building activities are grounded on an additional 3 key principles. First, resilience requires an in-depth understanding of the community lives and livelihoods. And I did not talk to Kanile before we spoke. But we must have substantive, participatory community engagement, and strong national leadership. It's not hard for us to agree, though, to ensure that a collective vision of what a context-appropriate food security and nutrition programming that we provide is what our clients note. I am not using the word beneficiaries. Our clients require. Second, resilience-building interventions must be designed in a way that encourage and support convergence of efforts with partners. Ladies and gentlemen, and farmers, we must also recognize and operationally accept that resilience building is not something that any one organization can do working alone. As an example, tackling the issue of stunting requires not just food assistance, but clean water, sanitation, and adequate mother or caregiver nutrition education, requiring real partnerships beyond just what the intervention of WFP could provide, which would be an output and not the outcome that we want to achieve. Third and finally, we will only achieve resilience when we take steps to ensure that every woman and every man can contribute to the maximum of their ability. We must address gender equity at all stages of our joint programming. Let me repeat that because you guys were too quiet. We must address gender equity at all stages of our joint programming. We must remove the barriers that women, particularly women farmers, face, who are the frontline agriculture and frontline nutrition workers and the major obstacles that they face every day because they are the major stakeholders. WFP, together with the other Rome-based agencies, and many of you in this room as partners, stand ready to play our part in this effort. Because in addition to these efforts, I am pleased to announce that WFP plans to launch an innovative finance mechanism that is complementary to the one already launched by IFPRI called the Food Secure Climate Resilience Facility, which we call Food Secure for short. This new instrument is a vehicle that will allow us, together with government and partners, to close the gap between needs and funding. It will reinforce community resilience in two ways: by responding to forecast climate shocks before they occur and by providing multi-year financing for long-term activities. Let me be clear. We recognize that this program represents a potential top-up, not a substitute for traditional donor dollars. Food Secure will make resources available when they are needed most to mitigate costly, catastrophic shocks, but also to support disaster preparedness work, as well as financially supporting multi-year, multi-sectoral sectoral resilience building work in support of our shared goal of delivery of outcomes and not just output. Because too often, the money ends when the crisis ends. And we are serving the same communities year after year. And it's only when we work through the entire cycle that we can change the outcomes. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to conclude by paraphrasing the words of one community leader from this country who spoke of how his community transformed from their drought-torn village when he said, "By fighting stones with stones, we got water." Yes, it is time that by fighting long-term problems with long-term solutions, we can achieve resilience and expand people's capability. Your deliberations and the conclusions that you reach are a central step to achieving the paradigm shift that we all need, and most importantly, that those we serve are waiting for us to deliver. Thank you.